Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. So excited for our guest today. We've got, usually I bring in just one guest a month, unless I have a bonus. And I have Dorna back with us. I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit more. But I interviewed Dorna like 2 years ago. And we had gone together on a backroads trip, snowshoeing, and she was very pregnant at the time, such a trooper, and did great on that tour, by the way. And now her business has grown, and we talked pretty much about SaaS, which was a subscription as a service. I thought that was very interesting for the legal field because she's an attorney, and she has developed this whole business, woman-owned business, and it has grown. So I'm really excited to dig in on this. And just to remind you, for those of you maybe clicking in for the first time, we focus on those who are at mid-career, halftime of life, helping you just plan the next part of your life. And halftime officially comes, according to the internet, at age 40, and it happens very, very fast. It comes fast and a lot of decisions to make. And so I like to help transition through that part just with some positive choices and using your skills and experiences and everything that Dorna is using right now, which is really exciting. So Dorna, thank you for joining me today.
Yes, thank you so much, Deborah, for having me. It's so wonderful to be here and fun to sort of do the revamp and the update of what's happened in the past, 2 years since we last spoke. So maybe I'll just kind of introduce myself to those who have not listened to the first iteration of our podcast. I'm Dorna Moini. I am the CEO and founder of a company called Gavel. The last time we were on the podcast, it was called Documate. And what we are is we are automation infrastructure for law firms. I used to be an attorney, and what happened was when I was at a firm, I was doing a lot of work that I felt was process-oriented and rules-based. However, I was not an engineer. And so I, at the time, got together with a friend of mine who was an engineer and asked him to build me some tools within my practice, actually helping, we can dive deeper into this if you want, but helping some of the pro bono clients I had in the practice area of domestic violence. And through that tool that we built for these domestic violence survivors who were some of our clients, that led to the idea of Gavel, which is now a platform that is completely practice area agnostic, but allows lawyers and legal professionals to take the expertise that they have in their brains and turn them into legal workflows and legal products that they can then provide to their clients. So we've grown a lot in the past 2 years. Our team has grown, our product has grown substantially. And as you know, we've rebranded, which is a big signal of some of the expansion that we've done on the product side.
Wow. I mean, just amazing what you've done. And especially I'm interested in you provided forms and you've provided this subscription service. And I'm interested in how you really made that change. And I love the name Gavel because of what it really means, that finality and the, everything that we have in a courtroom. And I think that was, such a great rebranding of that. But why some of those changes and how that switch occurred, because if you have people already on a subscription, what do you do with those people? And how did you go ahead and make some of that transition? Because that's very interesting as well. In such a big change. A lot of people have a hard time with change on whichever end you're on, whether you're on the giver or the receiver. So how did that sort of change sort of implement everything else that you were doing with your current clients?
Definitely. So interestingly, nothing about our product or the way that our customers are affected by the product has changed. It's simply a rebrand of the company. So from the beginning of what we are now at Gavel, which was then Documate, we have been really focused on providing the best document automation software. And I'll go into, for your listeners who might not know what that is, I'll go into a little bit more detail on that. Document automation is the process of taking input data, so potentially data about a customer, or data about a client that a law firm has, like their name, their date of birth, and many, many, many more fields of data that are much more robust and complex than that. And taking that data and determining what documents should be generated from that data and how they should be generated. So, for example, in the domestic violence example that I gave, which was the very first thing that we built before actually building Gavel, we knew that in the domestic violence arena, these clients that we had, that were coming to our law firm, needed, at the end of the process, they needed to generate a restraining order. They needed to generate child support orders. They needed to generate spousal support orders, gun restriction orders, and all forms of economic relief. We also knew that there were rules that the attorneys, all of us, had in our heads of, if this client tells us, for example, that they're married and they have children, we're going to give them a very different set of documents, and we're going to fill them out in a very different way than if they tell us they're single with no assets and they aren't even married to this person who they're getting the restraining order against. And so that concept applies to so many areas of law. And that was the genesis of Gavel. When we were Documate, we were like, we're going to be just focused on document automation, that phase of the process where you're taking the data and generating documents. And that's still a very big core of our product offering. However, over the years, what happened was that our customers were leading us in the direction of an even more robust platform that included more of the legal life cycle, which included client intake. So interfacing, meaning our customers are all lawyers or legal professionals. So client intake being the lawyer's interaction or the law firm's interaction with the client and the data gathering. Document automation, that would be the next phase. Having a client portal where you're exchanging additional documents or communicating with your client. And then finally, pricing and packaging those tools in models that are not always 100% aligned with the billable hour, which is the traditional way that lawyers bill. And so we were finding that while our product was becoming more of an end-to-end platform for legal products, our name was still very limiting, and it limited us to document automation only, which is one segment of what we did. And so that was the reason that we decided to do the rebrand. We realized that we wanted something that didn't have a preconceived notion, but still represented, as you said, we went through a long process of how we could rename our product, and that involved some of our customers being involved in that process as well. But we really wanted to emphasize that concept of the gavel having been for centuries used to really express finality in decision making and final decisions that are generated through a trusted process. And that's what that name gets to.
Wow, you are so great on being able to really explain this as well. A lot of business owners have a hard time doing that, and you're doing just really a good job in how. I mean, you still go ahead and you're still into the document area, but I liked how you said it was limiting. And I think some people are held back by what they have, even their name or whatever, or their mission statement, or they put everything down and where they're going, but it might be not big enough. And you are really customer driven, which is a wonderful way to be, because you saw what the needs were some of your customers. And of course, you know that area very, very well, because you're not just putting something out for this field that you're not familiar with. You are extremely familiar with it. And the principles apply across the board in a lot of different areas. We have a son, we had shared that before, who is an attorney, but he's a tax attorney. But there's a lot of paperwork that goes on in all of these different areas and he works with, a lot of big corporate clients, who's a little bit different, but yet there is a lot of paperwork that's involved. In fact, I was thinking of you the other day. I think a lot of doctors' offices need this when we show up and you're filling out this paperwork. Again, I was just talking to somebody again today, and they said, I wish, because you have to fill all of this stuff out every 6 months. Well, why can't you have this on a record? So anyway, that's just a wonderful service to have. Now, another
That's
thing,
so
and I
funny.
want
I
to,
actually saw there was a New Yorker cartoon on the doctor's office that I saw a few weeks ago. It was someone at a doctor's office saying, "Okay, so you want me to fill out these forms that I already filled out online, and I'm going to fill out again inside of the doctor's office, right?"
totally, totally. It just happens over and over. Yeah, it's just really pretty amazing. And when I told the doctor last time I was in, I said, "Why don't you guys have this automated?" Something. She says, "I wish." So there's for somebody listening in here. Okay, there's an idea for a business. You need
Exactly.
good idea. I think it would be very popular, at least among the clients. Now, another thing, and I really wanted to talk about this today because our podcast is entitled Women at Halftime. There are men that listen to this all the time. Men read my books. It's great. And I love that because I think the principles go across the board. It's just easier for me to brand Women at Halftime, but we are at halftime at mid-career. But you were just pregnant, very pregnant, and we're really kind of waiting to really share this with the world because you were working on more funding and everything else. And now you have 2 children and you are balancing life, a lot of life. Now, a lot of people who are maybe at a different stage of life, our kids are a little bit older. But this is, I'm dealing, though, I want to spend time still with my family and with grandkids, but it's a lot different than the stage that you're at. You are balancing a lot. And you mentioned in one of your updates that it has really been a good training. And the skills that you have, women should not discount, and even men, if they are the caregivers for their home, should not discount the skills that you have developed and you have expanded on to be able to balance all that you balance. So let's talk about that just a little bit and to share what you have had to, and how old your kids are and what has gone on with balancing. You're running the business. You are the head of the owner, the main cheese of your business. And now you have a bigger staff as well. So how are you handling all of this?
Definitely. So, so the last time we spoke, I had just had my first son, who's now 2, and I now also have a 4-month-old baby girl. And yeah, I think, as you said, it was a big transition, really only more mentally for me, because in sharing that with the professional world,
right?
Because I come from a law firm world. So I worked for about 7 years at a big law firm, and it was a world in which work was your life, and you worked oftentimes, 15, 16-hour days, and people didn't really talk about their families or things that could potentially take them away from work. And that's definitely the mindset that I came into starting a business with. And I think that I always approached it as we are going to win and we are going to grow and we are going to succeed because I am going to work harder than anyone else out there. But what I think having children actually kind of gave me a little bit more perspective into the types of work that I should be working on, and delegation skills and really prioritization, because I realized that the only way, and it wasn't really even just having children, but it's also having this baby of our company grow into being a larger company. There's never going to be a situation where, as we grow, I'm going to be able to do every single thing. I'm not going to know about every, bug that has potentially entered we're potentially working through on our product. I'm not going to know about every single marketing email that's going to go out. I'm not going to know about every single customer that we've talked to that day who's doing a demo, for example, because we're growing and that's just not possible. And that's actually not a good idea for me to do that. And so having children, I think, really helped me actually prioritize my day a little bit better and delegate over to other members of my team who I knew I could trust with these different skills. And interestingly, I'm now finding myself giving that same advice to people who are reporting into me in other functions of our team. So, for example, we have some really amazing, much more junior team members on my team who as we're growing, are realizing that they're not able to be doing everything. And so I had to sort of remind them that asking others for help is part of your job. It doesn't make you a weaker leader. It actually makes you a stronger leader because you're empowering more of your team to do that. So that's been one of the biggest takeaways, I think, for me in just having my life shifted on a personal level, and realizing that there are only 24 hours in a day, and you do need to sleep for some of them, and you also want to spend time with your family and your kids for some of them, and your dog.
Yes, and your dog, of course.
Don't forget your dog.
Yeah, don't forget the dog. Oh, that's so cute. If you're watching the video, you could see her screen right on her little dog there. Yeah, I think it really does teach you balance. You have to make choices. And I've made a lot of choices as well, raising 3 sons. And I love my work. I like to work, and I've worked a lot. I've done, I quit touring as much when those kids were growing, and I did more club work and more writing and teaching and everything else that you do, so I could stay a little bit more local. And so my husband and I worked all of that out. But some of those are a little hard too, because you see what needs to be done, and okay, I can stay up a little later or whatever, and then you're exhausted, and you're snappy at your kids or whatever. But I think it's very important to look at that balance and how to handle it, and also decide that you're not Superwoman. You can't do everything. You can't always keep a home completely clean. You can't always, my desk still, I probably have no excuse now, but it still gets loaded up with things and projects as I'm working on a number of projects, but a lot of things that you just don't have to be a perfectionist at, because that's usually the enemy of even getting things done. So, and being able to delegate, that's a hard one too. I have a difficult time doing that, because I can do things very fast, and I'm sure you can too. And you're thinking, oh, I could just get this done now by the time I explain it to somebody. So, but you have the right people, so you can trust. And you said you had just hired a CTO as well. Explain a little bit about the technical aspects of what a CTO does, because you've expanded from like 3 or 4 or 5 people to like 20, and also a CTO. So why don't you explain that?
Yes, definitely. So CTO, Chief Technology Officer.
Yeah.
So we've always had a wonderful technical team. But we were, as we were growing, we were realizing that we needed someone who, I'm not an engineer. And so I wanted someone who was a leader alongside me, who could take over scaling the engineering team and has deep embedded knowledge into how to do that. And so one of our investors has an engineering community as part of one of the aspects of their venture capital firm, and was introducing me to different leaders in the field that they had worked with before, and actually introduced me to someone who had founded another software company that had then scaled from like 0 to 300 people. And the person who is now on our team, Pierre Martin, he has extensive experience in leading technical teams. He's worked at Microsoft and Amazon, leading teams there, and then at this other startup that is now a much larger company, and was looking for his next new thing. His company was in the UK. He wanted to move back to the US. And so we got connected, talked for a many months before I think actually originally I was introduced to him as him just being an advisor. And we were talking about this the other day, actually, me and him. But I think my goal at the whole time was always to bring him on as my CTO. And he was like, oh, I thought I was introduced to you as an advisor. And I was like, my goal was always to still bring you on as the CTO. So eventually convinced him to come join our team. And that has been really game-changing for us on a technical and product perspective, because he's been able to make decisions that really help our team grow. He's been able to attract technical talent that I wasn't able to on my own, because I was not an engineer who had embedded knowledge or networks in these communities. And so that's been really amazing. And actually, one of the things that this has impacted on the prior point of just like more like culture, and making sure that everyone on your team is actually happy. And loves working where they work, is one of the things that me and our new CTO, he's actually been here almost a year now, so it's not so new, but one of the things we did together was do a revamp of some of the core values that we had as a company. And that has been something that we've realized we need to be assessing on a continual basis, given that our team is growing and we want the tenets that we have right now as to what our culture represents to follow and continue as we grow, so that we know we're making, our employees are like our family, and we want to make sure that they love the place that they're working in as well.
What a great point that you made also about core values. In fact, in my latest book called Stop Circling, if you're looking at the video, you can see it right behind me. I put all my books up there, but I wrote a whole chapter in the appendix just on core values, because people talk a lot about purpose and about their mission, about their goals, but it really starts with your core values. And I put those into two main sections of faith and character. And there's different parts of character and how important that is. And people do this once and think it's done. No, you need to revisit these like at least once a year, if not more. And especially this happens for a company and for personal, because they're connected. They're so connected together. And what we do with our work and with our personal life. And it's important to pay attention to both. Greg and I have been married over 43 years now, and it's just, it's important to, the reason is that we go back to those core values and we say, okay, let's major on the majors. Okay. We're different. So, but that's
actually, it's really funny that you say that, because just a few weeks ago, I shared with my husband an Apple Notes where I was like, these are our family core values. Let's iterate on them now. So,
yes,
the work and personal life. Actually, there's a lot of common themes that can be used throughout.
There sure are. There really are, and people try to just completely separate those, and they need to be merged together, because otherwise you'll have conflicts, and whether it's your integrity, anything else, and your relationships, everything. So I think that's a really important thing to revisit. And when people talk about, yearly goals or whatever, but you need to revisit your core values. And I think that will help more than anything else of establishing where you want to go, of your purpose and your goals and all of that. So that's wonderful that you had done that. And especially that you had found somebody that you felt very comfortable with, because he has caused now a lot of growth in an area that you wouldn't have, but you are still able to be, the CEO and the main part of the team there, because as the owner and the main instigator of everything else, and you've done, the hiring, everything else. So yeah, that's wonderful. So are there
your biggest assets?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Your people are your biggest assets.
They really are, and how you treat them and how you encourage them, and you develop trust, and those that have been with you, and you've had some probably with you, the whole time that you've been. Yeah. So that's always fun too, when you look back and say, how many years and to be together. So anyway, I know
we actually just started doing this fun thing that we introduced. We're mostly distributed. Most of our team is either in LA or Seattle, but we do offsites every 2 to 3 months where the whole team gets together in one place. And we started doing these. We have like jackets for our company. We started doing these patches that we add on for every feature that we release. So now every time that we go to a company offsite, we can see, okay, who was there for example, like our bundles, which is one of our features, like our bundles release. You have the iron-on patch on your sweater, sort of like a little Boy Scout, or I think someone called it similar to an astronaut, which I like better than Boy Scout.
Yeah, that's true. How fun. People love just little things, little certificates, little whatever, they need that sort of recognition. It's amazing what those all do for us, that we get some little pin or so, how many pins can you wear? But the patch is great if you have like a little jacket or a little sweater or whatever that you can just put that on, and it's very visual, very fun. It makes it fun, and add some of that to the whole sort of employee sort of feeling for each other and culture there. So it sounds like you have a very positive way that you're doing this. And how are you working out? You've got the family, you've got the kids. and, the dog, you've got the husband. Okay. So he works probably pretty much too. So you were both balancing life together. So I think that's really important to pay attention to all those different areas. So, well, is there anything else of, going into a detail that'll help my audience, and anyone else, even some of your audience that's clicking into this, because, we'll tag you on your social media, but that will help them know where you're going, what your goals are, how to contact you, what sort of dreams you have for the future.
Yeah, definitely. As to how they can find us.
Yes.
So we are pretty active on all the socials. The main one that I use is LinkedIn. So anyone can find me on LinkedIn, Dorna Moini. I think I'm probably the only one. And I'm also, if anyone is curious about our product and wants to learn more about that, we have gavel.io, www.gavel.io is our website. And there you can see all of the new things we're doing, features we're launching, and also see, if you're interested, case studies on some of the lawyers and legal professionals who are on our platform and the things that they're building. Because that's what really gives us the most joy and pride, is what do people then go on and do with our platform? And those customers really run the gamut between law firms, legal aid organizations, and courts, who are using us in very different ways to really make legal services more universal and accessible to the public.
Right. And it's the stories of the lives and the stories of the businesses and to remind everyone too, I write an article with every single interview, although this one I will update the last article that I wrote featuring you, and that was on SaaS actually, but it's going to be expanded on that and with some of your new information. Also, the podcast will be the previous podcast will be on it, as well as the current podcast, and both videos as well. So people will be able to, the other one, we couldn't see your beautiful face, but just your picture. But this one, they will see, all of your expressions and your, the actual interview. So that'll be a lot of fun. So, but I'll put both of those up on the article. So make sure you get our newsletter. Well, I call it a newsletter. I should just call it articles, because people get this newsletter, they get newslettered out. So, but it's e-articles that come out each week, and they're just announcing our podcast. They announce our articles, so you can keep up with them. And that is goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. So that's a great way to sign up. And Dorna, is there anything else that you want to say to everyone as we close this out? Because this has been there's so much fun to have all of this update, and you are balancing a lot in your life. And I tell you what, it would, for the shape you were in to do the snowshoeing at, I don't know, you were very, very pregnant, 8 months. I think it was very pregnant. And you did such a great job and such a trooper through all of that. And just with a smile on your face, and you were not complaining about a thing. That was a lot of fun. And
it was a magical experience.
It really was a magical experience. It was beautiful out. And it was all open. I
describe it as being inside of a snow globe, actually.
It really was. It was just amazing. And I had still had the opinion that a snowshoe was one of those big tennis rackets on your feet. And there's no way. Those are a lot. That was, from cartoons years ago, but it's a lot different. Believe me, if you want to go into snowshoeing, and it was just a blast. So, well, thank you so much. Anything else that you have to say to close us out? And it was just a pleasure to have you with us today, Dorna.
Yeah, just thank you so much for having me. And if anyone is interested in talking more about, particularly, I think, given that your podcast is about people transitioning in the middle of their lives, if anyone's interested in talking more to me about that, I'm always open to speaking about that. So feel free to reach out, and I'm excited to connect with more of you out there.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks. Yes. And thanks again. And I hope for all our listeners that you keep listening to our podcast. We always have, my husband comes on with me once a month too. We have a great time. He's a former professional athlete and RIA and all sorts of things that he's done in his past. And we have a great time and talk about a lot of issues that come up, even, not only athletics and physical fitness, but cryptocurrency and all sorts of things in the market, inflation, and how to handle all of that. And relationships. So we have a good time. And then I speak a couple times a month and then bring a wonderful interview like Dorna in once a month. So thanks again, Dorna, for being with us. Thank you all for listening. And we'll look forward to being with you next time. So bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.